6 worst addicts in hip-hop history. Over the last 20 years, more rappers have started opening up about their mental health than ever before. Behind the expensive cars and flashy chains, many artists are revealing struggles that fame can't fix. Addictions, infidelity, and the pressure of living up to an image that doesn't always match who they are. This is the story of the rappers who chose to speak out rather than stay silent. The ones who admitted to being addicted to cheating, and to battling their own demons while the world watched. Starting at number 6, we have LL Cool J. Long before it became normal for rappers to talk about mental health or addiction, LL Cool J had already opened up about his struggles in a way that shocked many fans. In his 1997 autobiography, I Make My Own Rules, the hip-hop legend who helped shape the confident, macho image of rap admitted something few could have imagined at the time. He had been completely out of control with and drugs. LL Cool J wasn't just any rapper. He was one of the pioneers who gave hip-hop its swagger, its charm, and its mainstream appeal. But behind all the smooth lyrics, gold chains, and women, there was a man fighting demons most people never saw. His childhood was marked by trauma. He once revealed that when he was just a boy, he witnessed his father shoot his mother and grandfather. That moment changed everything for him. It planted seeds of pain and anger that he carried into adulthood, long after the fame came. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, LL Cool J had it all. Money, success, fame, and women lining up for him everywhere he went. He was living the dream that many rappers rapped about, but as he later explained, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. He described those years as his champagne and gold chain days, filled with excess, temptation, and self-destruction. The more successful he became, the more he lost control. It wasn't just about casual relationships or partying, it was an addiction. He admitted that at one point, sex became a way for him to cope with his emptiness, a distraction from the trauma he never fully processed. In the book, LL Cool J doesn't try to paint himself as a victim or a hero. He simply tells the truth. He said that if he had left out those dark chapters, the memoir would have been nothing but fluff. He wanted to be honest, to show people that fame doesn't heal pain. It hides it. That raw honesty stood out because back then, very few rappers were brave enough to admit that their player lifestyle had consequences. His confession wasn't just about sex addiction. It was about confronting the parts of himself that fame had allowed him to ignore. It was about a man who had everything, but realized that none of it could fill the void inside him. When he called himself out of control, he wasn't exaggerating. He was describing a man lost in the chaos of fame, trying to find his way back to sanity. Looking back now, LL Cool J's openness was way ahead of its time. Today, artists like Kanye West, Kid Cudi, and others often speak openly about their struggles, but LL did it in an era when vulnerability could easily be mistaken for weakness. His story showed that even the most confident, tough-talking rapper could be battling something deep and painful behind the scenes. Next on the list is Common. When most rappers talk about love, it's usually smooth talk, poetic lines, and romantic lyrics that sound like they were made to melt hearts. But when Common, one of hip-hop's most thoughtful and respected voices, sat down for an interview on The Breakfast Club, he didn't come with another love story. Instead, he admitted something deeply personal. He had been addicted to love itself. While many artists have confessed to battling sex addiction, Common's revelation was different. He wasn't chasing physical pleasure. He was hooked on the rush of being in love. During that interview, while promoting his memoir, Let Love Have the Last Word, he explained that his therapist had helped him realize he suffered from what they called love addiction. It wasn't about lust or temptation. It was about craving the emotional high that comes with the beginning of a relationship. He described it as being addicted to that magical honeymoon phase, when everything feels exciting, new, and perfect. For Common, the problem began when that high started to fade. Like clockwork, once the early thrill wore off and the relationship started to require real work, he found himself pulling away. He admitted that he loved the chase, the spark, the butterflies, but when it came time to build something deeper and lasting, he didn't know how. When that feeling would go away and the real part of the relationship came, he said, I'd ask myself, do I really want this? And most times, I wasn't ready to do the work. That cycle repeated itself again and again. Common would fall hard for someone, get swept up in the emotion, then retreat as soon as things became serious. It wasn't because he didn't care about the women he dated. In fact, he often cared deeply, but he was unknowingly chasing a feeling. not a person. What made this revelation so powerful was how honestly he confronted it. Most people wouldn't even think of emotional attachment as an addiction, but Kamen realized that his constant search for that in-love feeling was actually preventing him from forming genuine, lasting bonds. Through therapy, he began to understand why he behaved this way. He traced it back to his past, to how he saw love growing up and the emotional patterns he carried into adulthood. Therapy forced him to look at himself, not as the confident, successful artist the world saw, but as a man trying to figure out how to love and be loved in a healthy way. It was uncomfortable, but necessary. What makes Kamen's story stand out is that he didn't hide behind the typical celebrity image. He didn't blame fame, temptation, or the industry. Instead, he took accountability and shared his truth. He wanted people to understand that addiction doesn't always have to be about drugs. Sometimes it's about emotional dependency, the constant need to feel desired, validated, or in love. And in Kamen's case, that craving became a cycle he needed to break. At number 4, we have Kanye West. When Kanye West speaks, the world listens. Sometimes it's for his music, other times for his wild outbursts. But every once in a while, he says something so raw that it strips away all the fame and ego and shows the man underneath. That's exactly what happened in 2019 during an interview with Zane Lowe, when Kanye admitted that he had been battling a full-on pornography addiction since he was just 5 years old. It wasn't some casual confession. Kanye explained that it all started the day he found a Playboy magazine his father had accidentally left out when he was a child. That single moment, that small act of curiosity, became something that haunted him for decades. "My dad had a Playboy left out at age 5, he said. "It affected almost every choice I made for the rest of my life." Hearing him say that was chilling because it revealed just how early this addiction had taken root, shaping his thoughts, desires, and even his art in ways most people would never imagine. For Kanye, this wasn't just about an unhealthy habit. It was something that altered how he saw women, love, and even himself. He said that became a quiet addiction that stayed with him as he grew into one of the most influential artists in the world. It was always there, shaping his mindset in the background. Eventually, he reached a point where he could see how much damage it had caused. In a now-deleted Instagram post, he went as far as saying, "Pornography destroyed my family." That statement carried a lot of weight. By that point, Kanye's marriage to Kim Kardashian was falling apart, and the world had watched their relationship play out like a reality show. But to hear Kanye link his struggles with to the breakdown of his family gave everything a different perspective. He saw the addiction not as something personal and private anymore, but as a disease that had poisoned his ability to build genuine intimacy. Kanye also began connecting his addiction to larger social issues. He claimed that Hollywood was like a giant brothel and criticized the entertainment industry for constantly feeding people's images. In his eyes, every billboard that sold alcohol or advertised strip clubs was part of the same problem, a world addicted to lust and instant gratification. It was Kanye being Kanye, but this time his criticism came from a very personal place. He wasn't just pointing fingers, he was speaking from pain and regret. What's even more striking is how this inner battle influenced his music. When he began working on his 2019 album, Jesus is King, Kanye stated that he wanted to create a completely pure and spiritual environment. He even told everyone working on the album to avoid premarital sex during the production process. It was his way of cutting out temptation and trying to rebuild discipline in his life. To many, it sounded extreme, but to Kanye, it was necessary. It was part of his healing process. Moving on to number 3, we have ASAP Rocky. When ASAP Rocky opened up about his personal life, he didn't sugarcoat a thing. Sitting across from Angie Martinez on her show Untold Stories of Hip Hop, the Harlem rapper said something that instantly made headlines. "I was always a addict." It wasn't a joke. It wasn't him trying to sound wild. It was a rare, brutally honest confession from one of rap's most stylish and confident stars. What made people stop and listen was how far back he traced it. Rocky explained that his addiction didn't start in his adult years or even in high school. According to him, it began when he was just a kid. "I didn't even have sperm in my testicles yet," he said, "but I was horny." As blunt as it sounded, he wasn't trying to be funny. He was trying to show that this wasn't just about desire. It was about a deep, uncontrollable urge that had followed him all his life. It started early, and it shaped who he became long before fame entered the picture. When Angie pressed him further, asking how he could tell the difference between being and being an addict, Rocky didn't hesitate. He stood by his words, saying he had been dealing with this for years. The confidence with which he spoke made it even more striking. There was no shame in his tone, no attempt to hide behind excuses. "These are things people stay away from. They don't like to admit," he told her. "I can't be embarrassed about it. I wear my heart on my sleeve." That attitude is pure ASAP Rocky. He's always been known for being open, experimental, and unapologetically himself. From his fashion sense to his music to his lifestyle, Rocky has built his image around being free-spirited and fearless. But hearing him talk about addiction gave that image a more complicated layer. Because behind the glamour, there was also a story of someone who had grown up seeing sexual freedom as both a thrill and a trap. He even admitted that he started having orgies when he was just 13 years old. At first, that kind of story sounds like the ultimate rock star fantasy, a young kid living out adult dreams. But when you hear it in the context of addiction, it hits differently. It's not about fun anymore. It's about someone who never really learned boundaries, because he was consumed by the need for more excitement, more connection, more validation. Over time, those habits became part of his lifestyle. He has openly talked about hosting wild parties, even buying a $100,000 custom bed just to accommodate his ventures. For years, it was part of his brand, the smooth-talking rapper with the expensive taste and a reputation for living like a movie star. But when he called himself a addict, that same lifestyle took on a darker meaning. What he once celebrated as freedom started to sound more like something that controlled him. What makes ASAP Rocky's story stand out is how open he is about it. Most people in his position would try to keep those details private, but he's never been afraid of being real. Maybe it's because he grew up surrounded by chaos and learned early on that pretending doesn't change the truth. Or maybe he just believes that owning your flaws is better than hiding them. Whatever the reason, his honesty turned a taboo topic into something people could actually talk about. Kendrick Lamar is number 2 on our list. When Kendrick Lamar released Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers in 2022, most fans expected another masterpiece filled with lyrical genius and deep storytelling. What they didn't expect was an album that felt like a therapy session broadcast to the world. It wasn't just music, it was confession, reflection, and healing all rolled into one. And right at the center of it was a subject that very few artists ever speak about with such honesty: his struggle with lust addiction. For years, Kendrick had been known as the quiet observer of the rap game, the man who analyzed society, race, and fame with sharp insight. But this time, he turned that same microscope on himself. On the haunting track Mother I Sober, Kendrick opened up about his inner battles in a way that stripped away every layer of the superstar image people had built around him. He didn't try to sound perfect or powerful. He sounded human, flawed, and broken. In one of the song's most gut-wrenching verses, he rapped about the pain his infidelity caused his longtime partner Whitney Alford. "Intoxicated, there's a lustful nature that I failed to mention, insecurities that I project, sleeping with other women. Whitney's hurt, the pure soul I know. I found her in the kitchen, asking God, where did I lose myself? And can it be forgiven?" You can feel the guilt in every word. Kendrick wasn't just exposing his mistakes, he was showing the emotional wreckage that addiction leaves behind. For a man as private as him, admitting this publicly was a powerful act of vulnerability. He could have kept it hidden, but instead, he turned his pain into art that spoke to millions. But what made this even more striking was how real his process of healing felt. Kendrick revealed that Whitney was the one who pushed him to face the truth. She saw what the fame, pressure, and temptation were doing to him, and told him point blank that he needed help. In the song, he recalls her confronting him. "Broke me down. She looked me in my eyes. Is there an addiction? I said no, but this time I lied. I knew that I can't fix it. Gave me a number, said she recommended some therapy." It's rare to hear a rapper admit to lying to the person they love just to avoid facing the truth about themselves. But Kendrick didn't shy away from that. He showed how denial is part of addiction, and how the first step toward healing often starts with someone who refuses to give up on you. Through therapy, Kendrick began to unpack not just his lust addiction, but the deeper wounds that fueled it. He connected his behavior to his childhood, his environment, and even generational trauma, the inherited pain that so many black men carry but rarely confront. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers became more than just a rap album. It became an emotional roadmap for anyone struggling with guilt, shame, or the weight of their past. Kendrick wasn't glorifying his addiction or looking for pity. He was taking responsibility for it. He used his art to hold himself accountable, showing that even the most disciplined minds can crumble under emotional pain if they don't deal with it. And in a genre where bravado often overshadows honesty, his openness felt revolutionary. Finally, at number 1, we have Nas. Among hip-hop legends, few names carry as much respect as Nas. His lyrical genius, storytelling, and cultural impact have made him one of the greatest rappers of all time. But over the years, whispers about his personal life have floated around the internet, particularly rumors that he once opened up about being a sex addict. The supposed proof comes from a video circulating on YouTube titled "Nas Discusses Sex Addiction with Angie Martinez." The clip's title alone has sparked endless speculation, convincing many fans that Nas himself confirmed the story. But when you start digging deeper, the truth doesn't quite match the headlines. Despite what the title suggests, there's no actual evidence of Nas ever admitting to being a sex addict. Searches for the supposed interview lead back to countless articles, discussion threads, and video re-uploads, but none contain Nas directly speaking about this topic. In fact, the interview people often reference seems to mix him up with another major artist, ASAP Rocky, who did openly confess to struggling with sex addiction during an interview with Angie Martinez. This mix-up shows just how fast rumors can spread in hip-hop culture. One misleading video title can turn into a full-blown story that fans repeat for years. And because Nas is such a private person, the lack of public clarification only fuels the mystery. He's never confirmed or denied it. He's just let the rumor float quietly through the noise, the way only Nas can. When you compare him to artists who have been open about their struggles, Nas' situation stands out as a cautionary tale. It's a reminder of how the internet can twist narratives, especially when it comes to celebrities. Without verified quotes or credible sources, it's impossible to say that Nas ever discussed having a sex addiction. And considering his history of staying tight-lipped about his private life, it's unlikely that he ever did. Still, the rumor continues to follow him, not because it's true, but because it sounds just believable enough to fit into the mystique of one of rap's most iconic figures. Whether he ever struggled with that addiction remains unknown, but one thing is certain. In the world of hip-hop, sometimes the myth becomes more famous than the fact.